So we were talking about the indexes, and we had mentioned that index is primarily used as a benchmark, and that benchmark provide us, you can say, a performance evaluation criteria on which we can evaluate our money manager, or we can evaluate our own portfolio, that how our portfolio or how our money is managed by the broker, right? To create and monitor the index fund, definitely it is also, you can see, used to uh, create and monitor the index fund. Like for example, how much funds we do want to invest in that, whether we want to invest any money further, or whether we would be willing to draw our money back from the market. The third is to measure the market rates of return in economic studies. Now, there are different, you can say, researchers. They are using these index in order to indicate different market rate of return that are actually determining the rate of returns into the market, right? So whenever we are talking about the market rate of returns, we are referring to the index returns. Okay, no one is asking any question anyway. So different, you can say, the researcher, whenever they are trying to research the market rate of returns, they want to indicate that what are different determinants of rate of return. So they are using what? They are using indexes. They are taking different economic criterias. They are taking different economic development factors, and then regress it, or you can say relate it with the index, and then they find out that different economic policies, whether they have promoted the investment positively, or whether it is negatively affecting all these investment in country. The fourth factor is for predicting the future market movement by technicians. Now keep in mind, whenever we are talking about investment, so the investor are of two type. One is, or you can say, the analyst of investment are of two types. One is technical analysis, another is fundamental analysis. There are two type of analysis that is carried out in order to assess investment. One is fundamental analysis. You may write it down with yourself, fundamental analysis. And another is technical analysis. You need to make a good understanding what are difference between fundamental analyst and technical analyst. Now, the fundamental analysts are those analysts who actually study the rate of return based on the fundamentals of the company. For example, they are using different ratios. They're using quick ratio, they are using profitability ratio, they are using uh, that, you can say, leverage ratio, etc. So whenever they are studying annual reports, and on the basis of the annual reports, they are using different ratio analysis, and they come up, or they make any conclusion about the security, that this security will be performing good or bad, etc. These kind of analysts are called as fundamental analyst, or this kind of analysis is known as fundamental analysis. So in fundamental analysis, we are using the accounting data for predicting the performance of the company. Whereas these technicians, which is referred right here, the future market movement by technicians, the technicians are the people who are using technical analysis. And what are technical analysis? Technical analysis are actually a technique in which they study the graph of the security. They does not study any accounting data. They does not study any, you can say, business strategies of the company. What does they study? They only study the market. They study in the market how the graphs is responding. On the basis of those graphs, they are making their judgment. Yes, just like
So
what?
just like the forex trade or IQ options.
Exactly. Like for example, if you remember, I have just drawn. Let me draw. You can see a annotation right here once again, right? Now I'm taking this one. For example, this is a trade screen, right? And you can find out in trade screen, there is a specific stock which is, you can see, moving in this way, right? This is a movement of some stock, right? So what is this movement? This is actually a graph over the period of time. This is a graph of any stock over the period of time. So what does the technical analyst do? They study this graph. They will study this graph, and the basis of study of this graph, they will indicate that whether in the future, whether the company is going to, whether the prices are going to come down to this level, or whether the prices will go up to this level. So they are making these 2 points analysis are based on all of this graph. So they are trying to understand on the basis of trend, that how is the trend, how the trend is followed out, right? For example, I'm now telling you that if we are trying to understand how the trend is carried out, then let's see that, or let me take the indicator right here. You can see that these are different trends, right? Different trends. Now, what the technical analysis can do, technical analysis can indicate that after some period of time, for example, that much of time period, the stock usually, the stock usually go upward by remaining on the upward limit, and then after that much of time period, the stock usually come down. So on the basis of that, they will try to indicate now it is time the stock will come down, and in coming down, what they can do, they can make, for example, a short sale, that they are currently thinking that this is a big price and now later on the price will come lower, so it is better to make a short sale, etc. Anyway, they are making indexes, and on the basis of indexes, they are trying to analyze what will be the trend of rate of return, and how these rate of return will influence the prices of other securities. So, and the fifth one is as a substitute for the market portfolio of risky asset when calculating the systematic risk of an asset. Now keep in mind, as you people have indicated yourself, that whenever we say it is a benchmark, see right here, we have said it is a benchmark. So what do we do? The indexes become a substitute for the market portfolio, and we are trying to understand the risk beta of any security. How many of you have actually studied corporate finance?
Yes, sir.
सर वो भी पढ़ रहे हैं.
अच्छा, पढ़ रहे हैं. उसमें बीटा
सर पढ़ लिए.
तो कैपम मॉडल पढ़ लिया, कैपिटल एसेट प्राइसिंग मॉडल.
यस सर, पढ़ लिया था.
हाँ, उसमें
नहीं
बीटा
पढ़ा, सर.
होता है बीटा.
नहीं सर, अभी नहीं पढ़ लिया सर.
ठीक है,
पढ़ लिया.
हाँ, वो बीटा जो है, वो बीटा क्या है?
बिजनेस मैथ में भी ये पढ़ा था सर.
ठीक है,
नहीं पढ़ा.
बीटा क्या है? सिस्टमैटिक रिस्क.
रिस्क है सर.
This systematic risk is how the market is performing, and against the market, how our company is performing. For example, I am now drawing the two different graphs right here. Let me draw two different graphs. For example, I'm saying this is the overall market. Now I'm representing the overall market. Right? What is this? This is overall market. Now I'm trying to, you can say, show you that there is some specific security that we are interested in, that the red line is actually presenting the overall market, whereas this is presenting our specific security, this one, right? So now you can see that the purple line which I have drawn, this is going aligned with what? With the market. So we can find out that when the market is changing its position, how much change does it bring to the security, or how much, you can say, the market overall economy is bringing change on our security. So by doing this, we will be able to understand that whether our security is moving with the market or it is moving against the market, and how much you can say the change does it bring whenever there is a change in the market, how much change does it bring into our security. So keep in mind, for example, whenever we are talking about systematic risk and I say the beta is, for example, it is equal to 0.9. So what would it mean? It would mean that whatever changes come into the market, my security only get 90, only 0.9. It means 90% change does it get from the market. The rest of the thing is determined by its own self. If, for example, the beta of any security is 1.25, what would it mean? Anyone?
अगर मार्केट इंक्रीज करेगी ना तो हमारी जो स्टॉक है वो 1.25 इंक्रीज 2.5 इंक्रीज करेगा.
Yeah, exactly. It will be increasing above the, you can say, the stock, or whenever the market is becoming lower, it will become even lower than the market. For example, if the market is making this much, right, it is still not negative, but we would have made that much of a negative point. Why? Because our beta is more. Because our beta is more. So it is used in what? It is used in understanding as substitute for the market portfolio of a risky asset when they're calculating the systematic risk. So whenever we are calculating that how much risk factor or how much rate of return or risk adjusted factor should we apply on this security, so we will be actually regressing, or we will be trying to understand the behavior of the security on the basis of the index, right? Now, another question will be that how the index are created. We have covered 5 main points, that what are the uses of the security. So one is, it is working as benchmark. It is used to create and monitor the index fund. It means how much fund we want to allocate for our investment. It is used for determining the market rate of returns, how the returns are generated into the market, in the stock market. It is also used to understand the future market movement by the technical analysts, whom are known as technician. And it is also used as substitute to understand the systematic risk beta of any particular security. Differentiating the factor in constructing the market index. So whenever the index is created, we need to understand the 3 main points. The sample for which the market index is created must include a good size of the, you can say, whenever we are choosing index, it must represent a good size of a sample. And what do we mean by good size of a sample? Anyone? Whenever we are making a sampling, so we say a good size could determine a good sample. Good size could determine a good sample. What does that mean?
तो जितना अच्छा बड़ा होगा तो उतना मतलब
The bigger is the sample.
हमारा size population को represent करता है ना?
Actually, see, the bigger is the size, the better you can say your sample will be, right? For example, if we are, अच्छा यहाँ पे आप लोगों को एक बात बता दूँ कि currently if you see about the coronavirus, like for example how the testing is carried out in Pakistan, for 1 million people there are only 24 tests are carried out, whereas in America for every 100 people, 5 tests are carried out. Which ratio is better?
American. 100
for 25. So you can find out the sample what they are choosing is more appropriate. Their size is very, you can say, bigger. So same is the case right here, that whenever we are talking about the market index, it totally depends on the size. It must be appropriate. And then the size must be, like for example, whenever you are taking the size, it must not be dominated by single industry. You understand? Then the second thing is breadth. Now, what is breadth? We have discussed this breadth earlier as well. What is breadth? In liquidity, we have discussed this, you can say, terminology. That liquidity of the stock depend on the breadth of volume. Now, what is breadth? Breadth is the availability of investors, how much investors are available into the market. The larger the number of participant, the larger or the bigger will be the breadth will be the more. The lesser are the representative, or you can say investor, the lower will be the breadth. And then finally, sources, as I mentioned, the sources means that from where are you taking your sample, from which industries you are taking your sample. That will depend on the sources, that you are drawing your sample from which source, which industry you are including, and which of the industry you are excluding. Keep in mind, if you have taken a lots of member from one industry and you have ignored any other industry, so it will not be considered a good indicator of the market. Why? Because the market, by market we means that collective sample of all of the industry. So that's why it must include a good size. It must be included from those, you can say, securities where the participant are at large, and are including those sources that include almost all of the industry. So that will help us in developing or constructing a good market index. Now, differentiating the factor between constructing a market factor is constructing a market index. Weighing of the sample members. What is the weighting? The weighting is the actually that we say that the sample we are choosing in our index weight how much. For example, sometimes you will find out that some security prices are very much high, but you will find out the market participant is very low. It means you can find out the trading volume is very low. Whenever the trading volume is low, so we will say even though when its prices are high, the trading volume is low, so we can consider that the weight is very lower. So whenever we are talking about the sampling, so we say weighting of sampling member must be carried out. So it is based on number one, price weighted series, that we are you can say taking a sample on basis of price weight, that what are the weighted price of those market participant, or you can say sample member that is being taken for indexes. Market value weighted series, that what is the market value of those index member that we have taken, what is that series, and unweighted or equally weighted series. These are three different methodology that is being adopted or that is used in developing an index. Now, instead of moving forward, I would like you people to please explore about the factors that are involved in choosing the KSE 100 index, right? You understand what is your assignment? Assignment क्या है?
Yes, sir.
कि KSE 100 इंडेक्स को डिटरमिन करने के लिए या उसके डिटर्मिनेंट कौन से हैं? The KSE 100 index is made upon what sample, or it is determined how? What is the determination of KSE 100 index? This is your what? This is your assignment, and I would like you people to explore now the KSE 100 index. I won't be moving further on this topic, right? I will be, you can say, ending my lecture.
Sir, assignment repeat कर देंगे.
Assignment जो है वो है, एक मिनट.